Something's moving under this dirt. Can you guess what it is? The dark things sitting there on top of the dirt are the pupae of a kind of sphinx moth called the small-eyed sphinx. And these grew up, the larvae, on black cherry leaves. All sphinx moth larvae pupate underground. They do not spin a cocoon, and some of these can get quite large. So when the caterpillars were ready to pupate, and I knew they were because they stopped eating and they started getting all agitated, crawling around and not eating anymore, I put them in this container of dirt, and within an hour all of them had buried themselves. Whoa, look at who we have here. All buried themselves, and within a few days shed their skins into pupa, and they will emerge in another few weeks probably as moths. So this you may recognize off your tomato plants is a tobacco hornworm. A lot of people think it's a tomato hornworm on their tomatoes, but here in Michigan I find, oh boy, easily 20 or 30 or 40 tobacco hornworms on tomato plants for every tomato hornworm, and there are some distinctions, although they look nearly identical. But since this caterpillar does not have much dirt to dig in here, it popped itself up as it's agitated looking for a place to pupate. So these just came off the tomato plants, and they are looking to settle down in the dirt after a while and shed their skins into a pupa. Now the tobacco hornworm turns into a moth called the Carolina sphinx moth. Big, impressive moth. Don't kill your caterpillars that are on your tomato plants. It's cool to keep them until they pupate and then metamorphose into this big, impressive moth. But you don't need to let them sit there on your tomato plants. You can take them from the plants, put them in a big container with just some clipped leaves, and they're content to lay there and just eat the leaves until they've had their fill. Then you just get a container with a few inches of dirt when they stop eating, and they'll crawl around and eventually bury themselves, and several days later shed their skins into a pupa. If it's late enough in the summer, that's how they're going to overwinter, and then they'll emerge the following spring, May, maybe June, as adult moths to continue the next generation. So we have 2 of them in here. Look a little bit more closely at one of these small-eyed sphinx pupae. Here's one. You see when I hold it and it's agitated, it starts to wiggle the back of the abdomen there. I like holding it by the abdomen and getting the front part of its body to wiggle around. I think that's cooler looking. It's kind of I think, a grosser look for people to see it moving this way. Just makes me want to do it. Come on, wiggle. There you go. Doing the dance. Now, we've got these in the container, and when they emerge as moths, there goes that caterpillar digging another tunnel. When they emerge as moths, they're going to need something to climb up onto, and I'm afraid these plastic sides of this little organic salad box here might be too slippery for that moth to crawl up. So what I will do is put a stick right down, propped up, just jam a stick down into the corner and have it sticking straight up. It might be, maybe 8-10 inches long, wide stick or a piece of bark. And when the moth is crawling around in the dirt, it's looking for anything that it can get a purchase on to climb up, and you go ahead and do that. And that way, if you're not home or you're not available when that moth emerges and needs to expand those wings right away, it'll find that piece of bark or stick and crawl up there and expand its wings and dry them that way. And you'll, maybe walk by and do a double take a peek at it, and see that there's a very large moth clinging to the stick. Okay, that's our Sphinx moth lesson. Over and out.